2131. When you understand that, in fact, biology and your mental, mannered ego is zero, then you will reset your soul. You will then see it pure and wonderful, able to love everyone equally. Only zero resets the mind. Saint Francis of Assisi considered himself as grass and even as dust on the road, and money as stones. In this way, he renewed his soul placed in the blood and biology of the body, hidden by the technologies of foreign minds. Reset reveals the secrets of the soul, and we become closer to perfection. It takes a specific effort to understand that perfection is unfortunately forbidden in us by genetic codes. With this knowledge, the pursuit will be faster. The body is like a donkey that needs to be constantly pushed to go to its destination. Padre Pio's words. 2132. The universe is an alien world to the soul. The soul remembers in its inspirations and glimpses the perfect world as it was, and is in heaven. And our present world is a world of material energy production. In addition, it is lacking everywhere. In this world there is no spiritual development, only kolkhoz work for a penny. After a reset of the mind, the soul begins to comprehend the discomforts in which it finds itself. After reflection, she gets a spurt toward the magnificent heaven God. This is its victory over the limited world. There one has all of heaven at own disposal. Padre Pio's words. And here, this piece of my floor. 2133. Intuition often interferes with simple speech, expression. Intuition is too strong. It pierces the stillness of speaking or thinking. Harmoniousness is rather a long way off when it comes to the civilization of the human body and its associated psyche. Smile, do not be sad. See how beautifully the hay smells today. Look at the stars and you will know your immeasurability. Every point in the sky is looking at you. Look, everything is yours. Wipe away your tears, smile, awaken your spirit, and shout with joy. Everything you belongs to you. The entire world sings to you. All the muses dance with you. Don't be sad, smile. 2134. If someone does not perfect himself in love, he will not find the greater good. In the galaxies, development is about seeking, humbling, and respecting God, that is, towards an understanding, selfless love. Most materially educated angels in the universe are unwilling, unable to do so. For now. Later, after experience, all will change for the better and return to the creative original of existence. 2135. The condition of God's love is to free oneself from selfish inclinations and gain universal kindness and love. 2136. In full love there is no shortage. To her belongs everything and everyone. It is free, perfect. It can be said that its only lack is absorption and sensitivity. But this is not a lack, on the contrary, an advantage that gives delight to the soul. 2137. God did not send us into this world at all, although he has no problem with us telling him that. Everyone is his child, both in heaven and in the failed cosmos. He justifies us, he even takes the lies upon himself. He justifies the evil that was created, he sympathizes with all that we allowed ourselves to be manipulated into our own learning and cognition. The curiosity that drove us, and mostly pride. God forgives everything and asks us to return, as long as we are willing, nothing more. But with this is the worst, as it turns out, because freedom causes all resistance to it, and God keeps his promise. He has given freedom to all, and he keeps his word. Padre Pio's words. We can sin, we can be delicious, infantile, and grandiose. God has given all possibilities, lest someone accuse him that evil cannot be done and is therefore limited. No, he gave this possibility, you can do evil. But he also gave a substitute for conscience, so that you don't go in the direction of evil all the time. He also gave the possibility of destroying that very conscience for oneself. Then the angel becomes good for nothing, aggressive and destructive. God is wonderful, despite the hell that his children have created. Our goal, if we understand it already, is to get out of the cosmic web we fell into billions of years ago, and even before. The salvation Jesus speaks of, that's what it comes down to escape to heaven, through goodness and love from a world of total limitations. The Catholic Church is on the right track of discovering this, and praise to it for that. It actually has this knowledge, but it does not allow this knowledge to anyone. And it has not used it itself for centuries. Padre Pio's words. 2138. From childhood to old age, man seeks the truth about himself and God. This is expressed in various forms. Through art, science, work, music, sensory experiences, technology, atheism, religion. Either way, the goal is ultimately an eternal life of complete contentment. We seemingly seek, but nothing happens in our mind. We forget every science in part. Even the multiplication table can be forgotten. So we need to renew ourselves all the time, otherwise our neurons and DNA codes will kill us mentally and physically, causing various diseases. Spiritual knowledge and solving the riddles of life heals our hidden potential of the spirit. The more you know, the greater you are. Padre Pio's words. Closer to the heart of God. God wants us to know everything. But for the time being, we possess feeble gray cells for thinking, and scientific faith applies. Scientific in the sense that the gray programmed cells do not know omniscience, but only the material world, and not completely. That leaves humility and humble acquisition of knowledge, but acquiring. 2139. People who force themselves to reflect, devoting adequate time to it, move more easily and with lightness towards improving their lives. Others get caught up in a web of purely human duties and have no time for spiritual work. Then they are surprised that they lose the peace of life. Joy comes mainly from the creativity of knowing, seeing and accepting what the soul projects to us in the material or heavenly world. 2140. Look at the nature of the world, which is transient like time or sleep. Time and sleep are devoid of real existence for you. So develop a deeper understanding and desist from developing that which departs from you permanently. Renounce transience and focus your senses on the eternal soul, which knows no transience. Reclaim the true, delightful senses of the heavenly body. 2141. Usually, if we don't like something, we don't eat it. In spiritual life, on the earths of the cosmos pseudo-heavens, the opposite is true from the point of view of the spirit. Sacrifices and hardships harden and strengthen our immortality and bring out from our mind eternity. 2142. In life, it is not as nature dictates to us. The soul strives for something higher, different from the nature of the fallen cosmos. Something quite different. And it's worth understanding that. Because otherwise, as Jesus says, we will close the original heaven to ourselves. And we will end up back in a soul-clothed genetic body, programmed by malicious angels, scientists. This knowledge is yet to come to us. A great change and revolution in thinking is coming. The hour that Padre Pio told me about is coming. The coming years will result in the enlightening of souls with knowledge. Knowledge not that which was already there, but new knowledge. For fresh wine is not poured into old wineskins, for they will crack. Love and smile. You smile and remain silent with your eyes closed. You see more shapes, more colors, smiles of youth. Memory expands your consciousness. You can penetrate the feelings close to you and thoughts close to your heart. All then you can, though your body rests. Goodness ripens in your hands and leads your way everywhere you think. Above it, happiness kisses you unreachable. This ray, so strong, thy face turns into smiles. Among raptures, at the bottom of pupils. You no longer need courtship, not to frighten the bird of kindness. You no longer know the parting glances. Now your eyes are spring and song. 2143. In heaven we have feelings. Padre Pio's words. Everything is based on feelings. Personality is a feeling and not just knowledge. Knowledge for the time being is only our companion in the unorganized world that is the chaotic cosmos. Later, knowledge will sort of disappear as we will return to the fullness of existence. 2144. Individuals exist everywhere, in heaven too. There, everyone is different and you can have contact with everyone. The words of Padre Pio. Buddhism dilutes this unnecessarily. The intelligence of the soul is a feeling, a reaction. Someone may not know much, but his feeling, sensitivity shows that he is intelligent. The intelligences of the world are wise insofar as they can reason with feelings of goodness and love. What matters is compassion, sensitivity. If there is no compassion, all human wisdom, politics of politicians, can be burned in the oven. 2145. To love is an ideal, but this love needs to be learned, to seek behavior capable of expressing it in a safe way, to strive for it, as in a partnership. But on the other hand, it should be interesting and not boring, even feisty, if we want to get its kernel of eternity. Jesus even said, "With violence one conquers the kingdom of heaven." It takes courage, especially in humility and self-denial, not to overdo it. To love is the pinnacle of the ideal. And no one is perfect so far. Love is rich in all greatness. It is local, family, nationalistic, and global, loving everyone in the galaxies at the same time. It is like a mother loving her children. She cares for them and fights when necessary. She even gives her life for her family. Like Jesus, he gave his life for his friends, only because he knew what comes after death. That's what love is. It loves concretely, not just upper crust, and everyone is equal and loved in it. Love loves as it wills. 2146. Fruits of shallowness. Ill-formed people, negatively oriented to the spirit, to life, to an applied, fragmented culture with the characteristics of apparent intelligence, but nevertheless the intelligence of self-realization. In our dimension, we call this culture. The degrees of shallowness of life's reactions can be seen as on the palm of your hand, without judging anyone. Intelligence is the ability to deny oneself. It has nothing to do with professorial thinking, by any means, but with the mastery of reactions. You don't need books and studies to think. Everyone has to think one way or another without any reason. The more he knows, the better. In the end, every educating consciousness will learn about God, sooner or later. That's why it's worth learning about everything to eventually find the source, God. Happiness, Padre Pio's words. 2147. The world would function well if the rules of spiritual life were followed. The first rule is self-denial in relation to others, just as God does. 2148. Do not be bitter about evil, but rather defend everyone, justify and wonder at nothing. Padre Pio's words. Evil is the norm of the galactic world, so anything is possible. The world was not created as it was intended. Not enough rays of divinity in it, but this is the fault of the angels. Evil will be exhausted one day anyway. If you can, speed up the process. Only God with his tolerant love is inexhaustible. 2149. Let's define who we finally belong to, who we want to deal with. Do we choose love or eternal discord and rebellion? Ideally, it would be a clear choice. But with this it varies. One must at least try and understand the various difficulties that face angels across continents and galaxies. 2150. God treats his children equally. It doesn't matter what dresses of flesh or view they wear on themselves. God knows about the pseudo-galactic, political gods. He loves them because they are his children. With God, nations, views, philosophy, theology, religious, economic systems and galaxies do not matter. He knows that it will all collapse anyway. Maybe he wouldn't want to think that way. But the free will of the individual soul creates the forms of the world invented by the angels, which is unreliable and purely self-interested. This is a pity, because for this reason we have to repeat life after life, because they lack the idea of eternity and permanent happiness, created on the foundations of beautiful love. 2151. The camouflaged ideology of the fight against God. In the background of its reality, visual and mental culture. When will we understand this? What angels rule us? It is a sad perspective from the point of view of selfless love. Nevertheless, humility is the most important thing for us. She knows this and overlooks manipulation. She laughs singingly. 2152. When I talk about spirituality, galaxies, planets, countries, associations, parties, and individuals cannot be left out. Without this, there is no spirituality, because there would be no cause and effect. The push for spirituality is the result of the fall. This is worth knowing. In heaven, no one strives for any spirituality or faith or even love. There, everything is normal. Adoration of everything and awe. the comfort of being in the perspective of knowing the most beautiful heavenly adventures. 2153. To not think momentarily, you have to think about it. There is no mindlessness, it's a fiction. You need to know a little about meditation and what it leads to. For the most part, to nervous diseases, just like not eating or bad education, leaving out the soul, focusing only on body memory. One can travel illusorily through the cosmos in the mental impressions of meditation. But all this is incorrect. Lots of dangers, lots of wrong visions. Meditation is not the nature of the soul, but a means to overcome suffering in galaxies. Then no one meditates, because it doesn't exist at all. Meditation is a form of illusion, hope, escape into the unreality of matter. In the end, though, what matters is tangibility and seeing, admiring and worshipping celestial forms. There is nothing else. 2154. You are the verbal creator of everything that appears in heaven and in the world. Don't read the Hindu or Buddhist theories into the record. They were just people, they wandered, and poverty forced the illusion of meditation on them, because they had nothing to do. Rather, stick to Jesus and Mary, angels straight from heaven. Thinking is the foundation of the self. You will not avoid it in any meditation, in any act. Check it out, just don't artificially deceive yourself. Didn't St. Paul say, "And I will show you an even more excellent way"? Meditation is needed for beginner souls, for whom life is difficult beyond measure. So one chooses to meditate, but that doesn't mean as someone meditates that he knows how to rejoice inwardly and outwardly. Rather, it doesn't. He finishes the meditations and continues to live with his eyes, the taste of his tongue, and his hearing. Nevertheless, the senses of the body nevertheless symbolize the senses of the soul. No one appreciates this, because spiritual science has destroyed the true knowledge of the spirit. It has run away from the reality of life and concentrated on the marijuana of meditation. Wrong. Better than meditation is book knowledge. If someone instructs someone individually, hubris is already at work, stemming from his weedy ego. But this person doesn't see it, because he shields himself with human knowledge, not angelic knowledge. It is better to be a spiritual empiricist in the reality of forms. Do not harm anything. 2155. The end of the world is a long, long time away. Padre Pio's words. Because he has no sense as long as angels live here and learn humility. Angels, people would like to destroy it already, but God gives a chance to go on, to free themselves from matter. It's not that easy. God understands everything and lends opportunities to the galaxies for the formation of souls, even though they are ruled by Satanists. This will continue for a very long time to come, as it has continued so far. 2156. God created everything beautiful as well as perfect, and it still goes on like this in heaven. The cosmos is the work of his children experimenting, pretending to be Godchild's play, bringing suffering throughout the universe. We see the effects with our eyes. The difficulties and troubles themselves in this world, from the need to breathe, to take care of the body, human memory, languages, technology, the economy, screwing corruption, bribery politics of government officials, food to constant natural, local, and galactic disasters. No one on earth is sure of anything, not even whether they will live to see tomorrow. This is the heaven invented by engineers, eager angels. And nothing will change here. No vibration will overcome it. The cosmos is dying, and we pass for the new wine of paradise. To heaven, 2157. God, in creating the original heaven, got it right. The only thing he didn't get right, so to speak jokingly, was our free will. But did he have another option? Otherwise, he would have made us slaves. So all the evils and troubles, countries, borders, and nationalities, genetically programmed primitive peoples that have arisen in the history of animals and mankind, are the work of our free, corrupted by total, intelligent, scientific selfishness. No one told us to play God. If we had restrained ourselves, evil would not have radiated out. 2158. Most of the angels in heaven did not come into conflict with themselves and are still playing with happiness today. And us? We harass ourselves in a labor kolkhoz and then die in a very short retirement. All these efforts serve to sustain artificial life in space, in our earthly system for slave money. Can anything be changed here? Probably many things can be improved, but the most important thing is to know where these dilemmas come from. Then it will be easier for us to make it to the end in this prison of matter, which brutally surrounds every tachyon of our souls, obscuring it with the vision of shells of atoms and chemical compounds. And the effect is that we see with physical eyes, instead of with the eyes of the soul. We are in the galaxy, in mortal bodies, instead of heaven, in bodies that are beautiful and alluring, perfect and eternal. 2159. It is necessary to distinguish between the world of psyche-corrupted selfishness of matter forms and the world of perfect consciousness and spirit matter. This is a huge difference. Here you have qualities, and there you don't have them. Here you have little choice, and there you do as you want and when you want. In heaven you don't have to do anything, you don't need anything, you just want to. Padre Pio's words. 2160. Opponents of abortion, like its supporters, do not know what they are talking about. The only solution and closure to the topic of abortion is the knowledge of reincarnation, the wandering of souls. Politicians don't know much about this yet. It's a shame, but this education will soon begin, and you don't need Hinduism for that. Let's return to the elementary education of the church centuries ago. It is imperative to return to this. There is no way out. The church must accept the reincarnation of souls back. This knowledge will close the mouths of everyone. Until this knowledge is refreshed by the church and the politicians and women who are mainly affected by it, they can lead to serious conflicts, even to the point where they start tearing down temples and driving out priests. Because what is there to say? Abortion, euthanasia, and opposition to them have come out of values that are incomprehensible to Christianity and Catholicism. The Pope and cardinals need to change the dogmas. They have already changed them many times. It is time to renew wisdom and restore eternal truths. Otherwise it will be bad and even threaten self-righteousness against priests and politicians. This must be avoided. It is enough to change the philosophy of thinking to the divine. The church will take back the knowledge of reincarnation. Padre Pio's words. 2161. It is impossible to disconnect God from any reality, even from the hell that is the cosmos and other virtual energies. It is impossible to separate him from anything: spirituality, ideology, politics, accounting, killing, destruction, culture, disease, health, life, and death. If anyone distinguishes and separates these things, for example, scientists or atheists, they are limiting themselves completely unnecessarily. Why can't God be separated from this? Simple. Because everything that happens and that we observe make his children. And God keeps every soul, good or bad, in existence. A parent is never separated from his children, if only by blood ties, by spirituality. God, who created us spiritually, gave us consciousness and gives his energy to everyone to live and enjoy. Whether in heaven or in hell, I point out that heaven is eternal, hell is passing away. Souls from cosmic hell eventually come out, having previously experienced tribulations, to see where things are better. Whether in this cosmos or in the cosmos with God, these are two different cosmos, the destructible and the indestructible. 2162. The hardest thing for a person to give up is pride. We can get rid of everything, even the body to be torn apart, but from pride, never. We prefer to be more important than the logical rationale of all the angels from heaven. 2163. If someone wants to merit before heaven to enter it with peace and joy, he should not think that he will gain it other than by getting rid of egoism, which has caused divisions throughout the universe, creating methods of mismanagement of cosmic and spiritual energies. 2164. Greatness is not about expelling sins from society. That would be a mistake. Greatness lies in expelling evil from own head and heart. Then society will be free and pure. Unveilings. Touching the self is the competence of a man, but a man without the serum of language. The scope of competence is the finale of education deity of the self, who is tormented by reproaches. His final stage will be the event of loss suffered, made sacrifices for stagnant hopes, the final stage. Also the event of incurred loss. Psychoanalytic senses are similar to the depths of subconsciousness, but not the sum total of the self's reparations. Psychism intellect is only sketches of the original philosophical curiosity. True awareness of the self is a completely broader perspective. 2165. God wants to give you more delights than the world, and even your family can give you: wife, husband, children. You must start tasting God with all your powers of material and spiritual life, and you will find that God is the sweetest of all men and women. Sweeter than all the angels in heaven. 2166. The cosmos has forsaken God, focused solely on itself. This is not enough to be fully happy. Cosmos today is a clear form of hell for all souls' consciousnesses that God created in heaven. Few angels of the galaxies notice this, because they have forgotten who they were and where they were before the creation of the universe. Is this normal? The idea was probably better, but it didn't work out. It turned out that the angels, creating the material world and alternative worlds, couldn't predict everything, and in addition, quarrels, already at the very beginning, led to wars between them. Everything was already happening outside heaven, which they consciously left, making their careers as creators of the empire of the alternative heaven. Was it bad in heaven? No. But an immature view of their capabilities led them to leave heaven and try their hand at it. And then the degradation of everything and everyone began, in an atmosphere of mistakes and pride. It's still like that today, since we still live here, in such a cruel kolkhoz. 2167. There is no question of love in human life when you don't give all of yourself. The same is true in relation to God. You have to give Him everything you have, but not for Him to take it away from you, but to multiply it and exchange it for the joy of living. 2168. God is able to lower Himself to our consciousness, even one that has been lowered for millions of years by certain galactic factions and personal negligence. 2169. The kingdom of God is within us, Jesus said. So what we imagine and construct for ourselves as heaven, we have it. The possibilities of the imagination, or the soul, are unlimited. The only thing that didn't work out was our cosmos. Too much coldness and suffering in it. For everyone, heaven means something different in this world. Padre Pio's words. 2170. The more you know about your soul, material life, and heaven, the happier and more positively amazed you become. And in proportion to this knowledge, you become very forgiving, tolerant, forgiving everything to everyone, like Jesus. And your views stop reeking of dogma and hermeticism. Your mind begins to smell of openness and unconditional love. You shake hands with everyone. You begin to be patient and strong. 2171. The soul should direct the body and not the other way around. The body itself is blind, lazy, and stubborn as a donkey. If you do not force it to love guided by the Spirit, you will exhaust the physical and mental forces of your body. If the soul is constantly guided by the physical, intellectual form, you will not come out the best. Cognition through faith and hope is closer to the soul than cognition through a magnifying glass. Yes, with a magnifying glass, you will see more matter until it dissolves into even smaller particles. And again, you will be left with only faith. The soul knows what matter is, worse with human reason. 2172. Earth's life form is imperfect in imperfect galaxies, which continue to morph into dangerous debris, that is, into a divine anti-heaven. In general, the entire universe, alternative worlds, are anti-heavens founded in spite of the will of God. Therefore, everything material will never appease and satisfy man. The ideal is only in the original heaven, to which it is necessary to strive with all own strength and soul power. All the time ask God to get there. God will yield to every soul as befits a good parent. We will all enter heaven, some as early as tomorrow, and others in billions of years, but we will enter. All will stand at the right hand of God, even the worst, called Satan. Padre Pio's words. He was once a beautiful, noble, selfless angel. He will regain his splendor one day, like any angel entangled in the cosmos. 2173. In heaven, we were angels, although at the urging, but nevertheless of our own free will. We went out on a journey of creating pseudo-life outside of God's acceptance. The consequences. Everything collapsed on our heads, even the love we feel and for which we constantly yearn. The laws of nature have limited our perception and vision of happiness. Opposites everywhere, not to mention the diseases of mental and physical bodies of angels, residing in cosmic materialism, the utopian heaven of temporary happiness. Here, even the heart's delight or physical orgasm last only seconds and are shameful. This is how we have been deceived and robbed. Illegitimate structures of happiness, of selfish satisfaction, have been created. All because we have forsaken God. And on these pleasures, you can still make money. With God there was complete freedom and complete happiness, unlimited by anything. It is necessary to return to this value unlimited by time and nature. And this would mean that we have beloved divine love again. 2174. The exodus of Adam and Eve from paradise is a realistic synonym for something that has already happened in heaven. Padre Pio's words. 2175. Countries are squabbling over their influence, interests. This is a real disaster. We behave as if we are not human beings, as if we all, as one, do not go to the toilet every day. And everyone goes equally, and they all want to eat, make love, have the basic items for ordinary life. The stupidity of politicians, parochial nationalisms, false ideologies, fanatical scientific achievements. Whoever is better materially, whoever has better technological, scientific patents, modern power, media wins. What stupidity! Man is such, an angel inside the body, no longer counts. What matters is ideology and a grazed wallet. We should protect ourselves from this. Where are the merits to get to eternal life? As if they are lacking. 2176. Because God created our souls, that is, consciousness and free will, He has a greater right to us, greater than we have to ourselves. The body we currently wear on ourselves is another matter. Not necessarily from God. It is the work of His children scientists. But God allows material imperfections because He has given us absolute freedom, and we can clone ourselves, reproduce ourselves physically, in a test tube or naturally, and so on. What we cannot do is create a soul, because we are not God. That's something we don't know how to do, and will never do. But we can redirect the soul to live where it pleases most, nothing else. Someone can be so formed during their lifetime that they themselves will want to be born again into this world. But it is possible to do otherwise, to mold someone so that after this life he will go to heaven. Free choice. To heaven no one forces anyone. That's why the life of the cosmos takes so long. Few souls still choose to take the direction eternal happiness. And so little is needed to get there. It is enough to love everyone equally, to be good. Padre Pio's words. It turns out that love is the hardest thing to achieve. If people loved, they would have been in heaven long ago. 2177. The truths you have come to know earthly, even if ecclesiastically, you can take them with a pinch of salt. The original truth is quite different. Recently, even Pope Francis finally said that there is no hell. Padre Pio has long told us that hell does not exist, but there is a shortage of the brave to say it. Maybe still in our lifetime, the Church will accept the knowledge of reincarnation. We'll see. 2178. God wants you to be perfect. Therefore, do even the smallest things for Him, not for yourself or people, at least as long as you live in the depths of the galaxies. Love for God is the most important thing. For ultimately, it was God who gave life and made happiness and love possible for all. What happened next, already in the seed of the cosmos, was not a divine cause, but the choice of free children. It is worth pointing this out and not judging God for what He never did. He should be excused for all travelers of the material universe. From themselves, they have the desire to travel. But these journeys always end in death. After heaven, the travels are refreshing, wonderful, and end in a wonderful adventure. In heaven one travels in the same way. Padre Pio's words, 2179. Do everything for heaven, not for anyone on earth, whether they would be your children, your wife, or your boss at work. They don't matter to you, only for one short life. They will die and forget the whole civilization. Only God. After death, they will all leave you because they continue to have to educate themselves in other body structures, DNA, in another memory, in other galaxies, planets. But God will never leave you, you can be sure, the words of Padre Pio. For this reason, everyone was given another chance to educate the soul in different lives. The river of forgetting own incarnations is necessary so that you do not have conscious connections and do not get caught up in further psychological and love conflicts. Property conflicts with a person or family. The river of oblivion after death is a favor, but not for everyone. There are those who tempt you into reincarnation to work for them like an ox. The choices are 2180. Debts for causing evil are distributed differently, and you do not have to pay them to a person directly. You can repay a person without knowing it, in another family on another continent. Justice is one, and God can administer it wisely. He knows about every case and does everything in our favor. He does this in secret from all people and angels, good or bad. Sometimes he will choose someone for special tasks, like Jesus and Mary, to enter the world of suffering and there educate to love. Padre Pio also descended voluntarily into this purgatory. I asked him about it. As you can see, he comprehensively educates in love and knowledge of all things to this day. 2181. Our fate is complicated as human aliens, angels in the flesh. Very complicated, more so than Windows algorithms that are constantly breaking down and being attacked by other algorithms, called viruses. Our DNA is also in danger all the time. DNA is a very imperfect structure, not robust, just like air, the atom, the quantum, and all molecules millions of times smaller than the atom. It's all flawed because it wasn't created by God, but by angels from outside heaven. That's why St. Paul cried out when he came to it. Romans 8 verses 22 to 25. For we know that the whole creation groans and sighs in birth pains until now. But not only it, but we ourselves, who already possess the first gifts of the Spirit, and we also with all our being sigh, waiting for the redemption of our body. For in hope we are already saved. But hope who's viewed is not hope, for how can one still expect what one has already viewed? But if, without watching, we expect something, then with perseverance we expect it. I must admit that he was a smart guy, but a fanatic on some issues. Padre Pio has a similar opinion. I once accosted Father about this. Enlightening crumbs. Again and again you are amazed by that blessed freshness that surrounds you like the wings of angels. Despite the fear that was before, you were not pushed by life blindly. There were the repentance of the Lord's table. They guided you through the salty turmoil until you became worthy to sit higher together with the guests of a wedding party. Thus flowers of your heart opened completely. Fierce silence ceased to afflict thee with imaginary impotence. Instructive repentance turned into blessed bread. Now whatever you say will testify to the truth, to your manifest love. No one needs to convince you of the heights of knowledge and happiness, because the moments you live through satiate you by themselves. From now on you have bold and humble ideas. 2182. It is said in certain circles that heaven is a state and not a place. This is true. This state resonates with each individual inside. Just like every perception of feelings, thoughts, and imaginations, and every store we enter, we feel it inside as a state. A state is a form of creating shapes to suit the imagination. This is how the world was created, and this is how it exists. It is a state of readiness, wanting, and movement. A state of the form of beauty. These are the places of space and hyperspace. These are the palaces of ourself, where we dwell outside and inside the edifice of soul consciousness, in the vast celestial cosmos with God. Consciousness is an entity and form that can enjoy and travel into the unknown lands of other states of consciousness, other concrete material territories. That is, other souls. The soul is not a mist, is how Padre Pio answered me. All creation of heaven and the material universe is based on consciousness, which is a constant desire, wanting. Heaven is a state in the soul and a concrete material place in which we find ourselves on desire. Heaven is to serve the state of resources of own qualities and forms that can interest other beings for the sake of mutual good and love. All for divine play. 2183. A man using trust in God should not fear anything. It will only come out for him for good, not bad. But God must be understood and excused for this. What happens in the world, that he does not interfere, that he allows. Freedom decides everything. God respects even the evil we commit, because freedom is our being, without which and love cannot exist. Through evil we suffer, but we will all come out of it when we understand its ancient causes, which God did not want or program anyone to do. He gave us heaven in the soul, the manifestation of which is freedom and love. He did not instill evil in anyone. Evil came out of the possibility of limitlessness we were given as miraculous beings. We decide everything on our own. Even today it is possible to leave heaven. The gates are open. No one keeps anyone there by force. But to be born in galaxies, it is an unpleasant thing. What for? As in heaven everything is perfect. 2184. God does not confirm anyone's mistakes and bad choices. He would most often stand across, but he doesn't, because he respects us. Freedom is holiness. A person can even give his life for freedom. Perfect freedom does not do evil. Less perfect freedom that exists in galaxies commits conscious misconduct. And there is nothing we can do about it. One could only encourage every angel human with the words of Jesus. Be perfect, as your Father in heaven is perfect. Here is at once the quintessence of freedom and love available to everyone. If we care, we should not suffer from freedom. 2185. We should know that material prosperity can strongly accustom us to a material conception of the world. And it may happen that at some point, the object of material satisfaction will obscure the real heaven for us. And we will stop thinking about it. And what does this mean? Simple. What you think about and what you live, that's where you move to, and that's what you are. Do you desire to live in galaxies, in countries, in earthly paradises? No problem. After death, you will be born in them again. There is freedom of disguise in material purgatories. You choose what you want. Choose heaven. Your troubles will be over. You will have only love and loving. What you like best. 2186. A spiritually free man can do anything. Listen to music, shop, go to the movies, theater, travel, have whatever he wants, etc. Nothing can harm him. He is able to control his senses all the time. He treats life like walking on a river. The river flows and he quietly wades on it. The burden of spiritual knowledge is great, and the current of the river of life cannot carry him away with it into the sea of utopia. That's why saints can also be found in stores, in markets, in TV studios, everywhere, among sinners too, like Jesus. Not necessarily only in prayer. Yes, prayer is their fuel, and the strength with which they then act for others. 2187. Are you familiar with Saint Francis of Assisi, and especially his end of life? If not, then read a little about him. You will then see that without love no matters. 2188. The state of patience is not just a matter of controlling nerves. It is about the hidden knowledge that comes from knowing the situation in which a person finds himself and suffers. To find this knowledge, for this it takes some patience and years. You need to compare many phenomena, overcome theories, search between the verses of various books, including the so-called scriptures, and never take them literally, because that would not be very wise. Times have passed, and the knowledge of old has already departed from the needs of a more oriented soul to know God. Rather, archaism should be neutralized with a new approach. Write not what has already been written. Write new and different things. God has given you such a head to know great things. You will put the great ones of this world to shame, is what Padre Pio told me. Well, I don't know if this is true. 2189. We create the truth ourselves, and the truths of God we will never fathom. God similarly creates truth for himself. The collision of our desire with the delight from heaven. This is the truth. 2190. Involuntary material stimuli of different nature appear in our lives. There is a lot of power in them, which educate the openness of the mind and heart. Modernity is ultimately the work of consciousness or soul. Although there are not always pure souls, but nevertheless they create and bring something into our lives. A good time, the salvation of our soul. Love and spirituality are also fun. 2191. Our psychology of thinking is very non-progressive and wasteful. A person without faith in the eternity of life harms so enormously that it cannot be counted by anything in culture and economy. And such people are being formed under the guise of progress, which ends in disaster, the disappearance of civilization, death. This is what happens in all galaxies. Human knowledge is directing the sense of micro-quantum machines, bioelectric currents, working inside our bodies. So far, only faith in our earthly civilization directs us to the deepest meaning of existence. 2192. Everyone has the same thing. It's worth listening, because listening is about creating diversity, even when things don't agree according to us. It doesn't matter. Disagreement is something that comes from our thoughts, beliefs, or is the result of messages from parents, grandparents, gurus, or priests. A view is not love, neither light nor darkness. This is also not love. Love is the most beautiful of beautiful situations. 2193. If you trust in God and the soul you have received gratis from Him, don't be crazy about anything. Discern the time and set yourself up for life accordingly. Don't envy anyone's material possessions, beauty, and senses of pleasure, so that you don't waste the chance to return to the selfless heaven. Let yourself be guided in all circumstances, and don't complain that you are constantly lacking something. You have life. This is your first gift, which you will not lack until the end. Besides, you have thoughts, emotions, feelings, and they are spiritually the most valuable. Just know how to use them on earth. So love and do what you want. Love under all appearances and non-appearances. This is what salvation is all about. 2194. Unfortunately, this is the truth that a civilization that has gone in the direction of creating only material prosperity and loveless humanism has created all-round conditions for being dissatisfied with life in all its dimensions. In our consumerist civilization, there is more makeup than living beauty. Although makeup is also beautiful and can be used, but with love, we risk a lot when we miss the essence of things. Dissatisfaction, the feeling of not finding the deepest experiences, not enjoying eternal love. These are huge arguments for loss. 2195. So far, a relatively small part of society treats Christianity as a path to liberation and normalization in the world. Full civilizational success can only be achieved when everyone takes it upon themselves to learn about personal spirituality, working closely with the heart and mind of Jesus and Mary. From the heart, neither Jesus nor Mary were Jewish. To help, they were born in that nation. These two people came down from heaven with great emotional knowledge. Therefore, such a direction is good for us to go towards forgiveness and love, towards the knowledge of the original life with a great, forgiving heart. 2196. Intellectual reform by correcting people's attitudes is of no concern. On the contrary, it will help calm the mood and enter into a dialogue of all with all. But sometimes you have to undergo such reform yourself, and not to recognize only own dogmas and stigmas of thought. So what if you are right? Padre Pio's words to me. 2197. Jesus knew the whole truth about man, but yet he could not reveal everything to his disciples, because they were not yet ready to do so. However, he did promise the Spirit who would lead them to all the truth. Today the situation is repeated. Are you open to the whole truth? To the love and delight of existence? Suffering and wars are not our destiny. The soul does not accept such things. It does not accept any disease, poverty, disaster, nature that destroys and kills. The soul is the soul. It is wonderful and likes ease, freedom, love, and unlimited happiness. 2198. Always in human life, the destructive factor is ignorance, selfishness, pride, jealousy, lack of universal God in love. 2199. Spiritual immaturity is the result of activating worldviews that are inadequate to the reality of God, who is selfless, acting, loving, caring love. Views unnecessarily touch the being of man. They deceive him in almost everything. The heart is without views. Therefore, it is what one should love with, not intellectual speculation. Ideally, it should be the mental heart. Reminder, in parched hot nights, I recall the sonorous singing eternally alive beautiful. Those were moments full of delight. When will I return to those moments again? When will I again be overwhelmed by a full sense of happiness? I sit vigilantly awaiting the return. There again I will share joy with my heart dearest forever. Transparent waters we will taste. The most beautiful waves of peace, the brightest glows, we will persevere. We will live to see, we will achieve. All the features of life speak of this happiness. Let's stand up. Let's go to conquer through the shadows of this earth. We will overcome hatred. We will overcome crying. We will conquer happiness. Let's go now. 2200. What else can I say from conversations with Padre Pio and Fula Horak? With Padre Pio, I divorced through Christine 35 years, with Fula about 6 years. Padre Pio used to send me to Fula Horak, so every Sunday I was at her place with Ludwig. I may surprise some people. Well, what Fula told me regarding Elvis Presley. He's an angel who came down to earth to cheer us up a bit with his music. The fact that he got entangled in drugs and other things in his life. It doesn't matter. He was good and knew how to share. And from Padre Pio, I also learned something interesting about Marilyn Monroe. He told me, she's long since in heaven, because she loved so much. I leave the reflections on this subject to everyone, personally. What possibility of the heart? Such an interpretation of these words. I have not changed anything. The literalness of the statements of Father and Fula. 2201. If you know your every need, that means you know heaven. Your dreams, no matter what they are, which give you at least one ray of joy, will always take you there. They will do it through your soul and body with all its senses. What are the senses for? To give you pleasure. The soul in heaven also has senses for enjoyment. The example of happiness came from heaven to earth. There was no other way. Think about it. Do not fear anything. Avoid only pride. The rest is yours for total and creative, emotional, spiritual, and material disposal. All the material and heavenly heavens are yours. With the material ones, there are more problems, because here there is suffering and death. But you can feel the real heaven already, and in the galaxies. Look for this feeling, and it is eternally loving. 2202. What does it mean that someone has no reason, that he does everything the opposite of what his intuition would like? It doesn't mean that his soul is inherently evil. No, as a result of connections with evil from the past, the body received an imperfect, limited structure. A grid of connections of thinking cells. Logic, so impoverished wisdom. This cannot always be changed in one lifetime. Rather, one must be born again as Jesus suggested. Unless you are born again of water and spirit, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. 2203. Now is the time of seeking, perfecting, courting God. Heaven can be pleased with only one thing, striving for goodness, love, and wisdom of conduct. So much. For this, one is rewarded with a phenomenal life, bringing delight unimaginable, indefinitely. It is worth loving and delighting in beauty. For this ease and lightness of response, we have heaven. 2204. Cognition will not shine in the darkness, but when they are illuminated with goodness, art, song, suffering diminishes. Shoots grow from seeds and leaves from shoots. The flower is heaven. 2205. With illusion, let's not exaggerate. Collide with the wall in the bathroom. You won't say it's an illusion. These are real facts. Maybe you are in relation to the achievements of science professional, and according to human standards fixed. But as you noticed in feelings, emotions, love professions, You feel the weakness of facts and realities. You are more resistant to stock exchanges and banks, especially to usury, which is killing us every day. Fictional calico honors spiritual materialism. The real world is quite different. Never secular, hedonistic, never corrupt, never sectarian. 2206. Just as today we make electro-robots, the angels, the creators of nature, came up with similar robots in the form of living integrated circuits, very complex, animals, insects, our bodies. And so it hula materially. Souls use this form either to regress, stagnate, or to progress spiritually. The control of these processes is immense, unbelievably corrupted by hubris and dark interest, sustaining physical life, imaginative, auditory, visionary, intellectual and technological tinkering, at the level of visible and invisible eye physics. God tolerates this because what is he to do? He is helpless against free will. He could destroy it in a split second, but he respects his children and the freedom he has promised them. In the cosmos, no soul God shows up to respect the evil it does to its free will. He is still waiting for someone to understand him and cuddle up to him, as was the case in heaven in the beginning. 2207. In general, illusions do not exist. There is mental, emotional, physical, spiritual realism everywhere, at all levels of good and evil. Illusion is part of the material universe. Love is an illusion of the happiest kind, if we already want to use that term. Faith and science are the illusion needed in the cosmos so far. 2208. Through motherhood and a mother's unconditional love for her child, we learn to love God. God loves and in this respect is crazy, like a mother. The child lets us down, and the mother loves anyway. And it's worth knowing that God is an even better mommy and daddy than we are on earth. Padre Pio's words. He has billions of children, and he values and loves all of them equally. And those that are in exile by free will in space and subjected to being born in difficult physical conditions, and those that are all the time in heaven. There is no difference for him. He has the same love for everyone. To Satan and to the guardian angel, no difference. Love everyone equally. Padre Pio's words. Moments of evolution. Interpretations of non-phenomenal soul screen theory means to see the evidence of being manifests in the process of accurate shifting of emphasis creative divinity, where scientific senses are always puzzled by the functional cycles of coexistence between science and mystery fantasy progress. System, according to the orders of thought, is a huge unlimited value of the idea of a constantly stretching machine of evolution. However, towards heaven. 2209. Never try to be a judge or an executioner. Be love in every case, Padre Pio's words. Little be mercy from behind the scenes, understanding the problems of every being aware of his physical and spiritual body. 2210. Gaze at Christ and think. Try to sense his intentions, because what they wrote after him are almost all human words. Try to imitate him with your life, so be merciful, forgiving, yielding, never fierce. And don't hang your thoughts on science, which is constantly changing and resetting. Material life codes are a temporary fiction, designed to put you down and reincarnate you. When will you finally understand this? Understand Faustina Kowalska, but don't read her writings too much, or you will go astray. The church forced everything on her to conform to dogma and canons, to craft a little false evangelization. She knew this, but there was nothing she could do, or she would have been expelled from the order. And she liked it there, although she suffered a lot from her fellow sisters' accusations, etc. I spoke to her many times through Padre Pio. 2211. Be grateful and thankful at every point that you think, feel, react, delight. Without you, it would not be so romantic. In this world and the next. 2212. Give yourself completely to God and not just to creation. Seek the good that he has left here through the hands of the various engineers, creators of nature, and you will find the eternal, his original soul, with a heavenly body that is right behind the temporary physical body. 2213. Every day lived is supposed to be a new day of seeking God. Apart from God, you won't really find anything. Today we can't see God because there is too much self-love or impurity in us, and coatings on the eyes, nuclear cataract. But someday it may come and we will regain our vision. It will occur. 22:14. We are just regaining the gifts of spirit. We learn to think with the spirit and get rid of the physical, sensory molecularity, the molecules of vision and photosynthesis of gray cells to produce material thinking spread throughout the body. In the heart, not just in the brain. Atoms, photons, quarks, subparticles do not serve the soul at all, but only the cellular biological body. The body will eventually be digested by the natural metabolism program, an exuberant trait of programmers, maddened by their knowledge. Science produces the very conflicts and matter eating. Through these astrophysical, philosophical, and psychoscientific programs, the finale has become rusting and spoiling. This is the civilization of hell, but so far we like it. That's why we are born into it. Do we need it? Everyone eventually learns that unnecessarily. Too much suffering here. 22:15. The human body is an elevator with which one can ride out to eternity. The words of Saint Adam, which came to me through Padre Pio. Those who do not take advantage of this opportunity only prolong their suffering. One cannot focus on money and thinking with the senses. This is not enough to reach the eternity mentioned by the great man, the angel Jesus. One must reach heaven, where what is beautiful is just beginning. 22:16. The fact that we think conceptually, abstractly, economically, philosophically, or theologically is not all that distinguishes us from insects, cows, dogs, amphibians, etc. This is a deeper existential and spiritual problem. Pure manipulation of the scientific anti-heaven so that we know nothing about it. But it is already getting better with this. And it will get even better. We are learning a lot about life, its causes, and its bizarre effects. 22:17. In Poland there will be a king, that is, someone in his image. The present time is a transitional period. The model of the ideal king should be Saint Casimir the King, slightly modernized. I spoke to him through Padre Pio. He told me to remind myself in this matter. 22:18. If someone does not understand the essential problems of life and leaves this world as a spiritually backward fogey, without learning any science of self-realization, he will remain in the realm of suffering and anguish. He has a problem, and yet everything can be changed, just as Saint Francis of Assisi, who was a material rich man by origin, changed his consciousness. Anything is possible, you just have to discover it, read about it and make a decision, and unleash the will. 22:19. The state is so weak, the police is so weak, the military is so weak that it has to hide regulations, rifles, battle gas, shields, planes, multi-role helicopters, bombs, security, bars on windows, barriers, gas masks, handheld gas, paralyzing electricity, bayonets, tanks, and high salaries. Their weakness has no limits. To maintain power, most often political, legal, judicial, and military weapons are needed. In general, they are one and the same. A missile is the same as politics and the judiciary. The greater the technology, the clearer the evidence of deeper weakness. A man who is peaceful, tolerant, able to love his neighbor as himself, 1,000,000 times stronger than all the war arsenals of weapons of mass destruction, than all the courts of the world and man-made laws. Education towards love is more valuable than all the stockpiles of bombs in the entire galaxy. 22:20. How much freedom and happiness we achieve depends on ourselves. 22:21. Freedom is the idea of looking at reality to reach the pinnacle of the good life. 22:22. How to achieve positive economic, social solutions so as not to endanger people. Selfless love can always help with this. 22:23. Everyone can insist on their own rationale, and this makes it impossible to bring the highest realities into people's consciousness. Rationales are different, because knowledge is different, and the currents of cognition are different. This is still the case for now. After death, something changes. Here, heaven means something different for everyone. Padre Pio's words. I quote Padre Pio's words endlessly in different contexts. I develop them based on the climate of my multi-topic conversations with Padre Pio. He also repeatedly emphasized that you will come to everything yourself and know the truth. So Padre proved to be a great and good teacher. He did not allow me to be bailed out in my search for God. He guided and left. And this is what I am writing about. Probably otherwise I would not have written anything at all. This knowledge is entirely due to Padre Pio. I have not been useful here for anything, only for padding electronic letters. I have no merit here. Heaven has merit. And so I would have to live like any poor person, drunkard, mafioso, drug addict, criminal. Padre Pio pulled me out of the ditch of ignorance and suggested that I share this philosophy with at least one soul. So I do it, and as I have noticed, interest is greater. 22:24. Do not imitate people, but God. And if already people, then only the family of Jesus, the words of Padre Pio. There was tolerance, love and sincerity of striving to open spiritual memory, and there was even talk of a molecular machine transforming energy into a holy atom for this world. There was talk of understanding the thread of fallen matter, which Jesus emphasized everywhere. Seek first the kingdom of heaven. 22:25. Through one man or one idea or one party whole nations can fall. Owls Padre Pio. A good man, righteous and holy in thought, will put the country back on its feet. The model of the Holy King is ideal. 22:26. As for life in our solar system, I can say, life in the solar system is left only on one of Jupiter's moons besides Earth. But it is a different life, the words of Padre Pio. 22:27. Every person is destined for spiritual growth, not just physical growth. In spiritual knowledge, he matures and learns about his original life. He learns about the division of cells into which he was incarnated. The soul enters the body no earlier than the 3rd month of pregnancy. There are spiritual safeguards to make it so. Nonetheless, aborting a pregnancy on demand is the realm of ignorance and a bit unfair. The words of Padre Pio. To reincarnated souls who wish to experience the evil world and gain experiences to ultimately become love itself for all. Every woman should think deeply about this. If a girl has been raped, she can remove the fetus. But on the other hand, a soul can descend there, who can love her mother like none, be her love. If the soul descends to mom from the last cut of cosmic experience, then mom will be in rapture. And also after rapes, such souls descend. The act of rape is not pleasant, we know. You have to change the picture of reality in your head to understand it. It is not easy psychologically or physically. Everything depends on our cognition and deeper reflection. However, in the end, mom decides everything. Freedom and level of understanding of life. This is the treasure of our decisions. Earthquakes is also a kind of abortion on living tissue, where children and adults die. And somehow there is no larum, because it is supposedly God who kills people by shaking the mantle of the earth. Let's not live this Jewish Old Testament or archaic Gospels anymore after all. A little progress in true light spirituality. So much needs to change. The Old Testament should have been forgotten long ago. Padre Pio's words. I say this for probably the 100th time. 22:28. Unlike the materialistic empiricist angels who live in the cosmos, spiritual knowledge is most profoundly conveyed through speech, written words, and non-verbal belief and intuition. 22:29. None other than God in creating heaven gave imagination to the angels on his model. The material world at the moment is the anti-heaven, but the pattern of the world was taken from heaven, an imperfect copy. That's why Padre Pio often told me that there is something of heaven on earth. But it was supposed to be beautiful here, as in heaven, and it turned out that the earth was spoiled by egos that tasted freedom without limits. Just like the solidarity of the 1980s. Ultimately, it led to the divisions and degeneration of office that those people entered into, ruling the state. Everything is based on the same. Purity of intent and purity of heart counts. Those who have not achieved this are still outside heaven. 22:30. Light souls, experienced in the cosmos, brought into this world the spark of liberation from the tyranny of genes, showing the eternal transcendence. And glory to them for that. That is what Jesus was. So was Francis of Assisi. They called Francis the second Christ not without citation. Jesus did not begrudge his knowledge. He shared it with everyone he met interested. He explained what this life was all about, why it was so hard and cruel. What was the reason? He explained it all, but few people understood it. Even the church today does not understand it. Let's hope it will open up to the new wine. 2231. God is almost powerless against our free will, and he has to trick satanic angel investigators into searching for souls and somehow neutralize their intelligence of evil. God is almost like a Columbo detective, and there's no kidding about it. And Stargate is not just a fairy tale, it's all true. Star Trek movies very realistic, typical cosmological problems. 2232. This is how you should express yourself. These are the words you should use that are anointed with your heart, your feeling, your smile, your spirit, your kindness. Otherwise, your sentences will not make any impression. They will be somewhat fruitless. 2233. How someone knowingly kills, cuts wood and massacres pinnipeds, flies, mosquitoes, ants or other creatures. He is not fit to be any thinker, philosopher, politician, doctor, king. But then again, that's life here, not very noble and not very compassionate. Everyone is genetically programmed to kill nature. It is necessary to finally get out of it and leave this galactic habitat of harm and move to the original heaven. For now with consciousness, and then in its entirety. 2234. Man enjoys various pleasures, just as he is in heaven. But in the material world, for a moment of pleasure, he can be very unpleasant and destroy many things. It is necessary to embrace this and not be provoked by self-love. 2235. It doesn't matter what works you do, what you do, how many books you've written, how many songs and hits you've composed, how good you've made the state budget. Angels created the world, the cosmos, life systems, its support, that is the energy, blood, nature, and what of it? Nothing good came out of it, only disease and death. This is about something else entirely. Talents are not everything. Celebrities are a sham, everyone sees it at various beautiful galas. You can be without talents and money, and save yourself first. The ways of love do not always correlate with talents and galactic wealth. Selfless love must be the core always. This is the heaven of supreme pleasure and delight. Love for all, this is what Padre Pio taught us. 2236. Our consciousness and thinking are a mystery, and no one can guess it, not even the highest cosmic civilization, because it's all shadowy, philosophical, and scientific. They don't know what the soul is. That's why they squeeze us into different bodies, because they can't kill eternal consciousness. And they would like to. Then they would even control reincarnation, death and birth entirely. But no, God surpasses them in everything, and they don't even know how he can effectively fish out of their hands every soul which wants love and not suffering. They are terrible, shady, quantum liars, but they too will be converted in the end, as Padre Pio said. They will receive eternal heaven from God. It may take some time yet. 2237. I'm surprised God doesn't take drugs and drink alcohol into such a situation, which is happening in galaxies, on different solar systems, on different material planets, well, and on our planet Earth, where they murder each other, kill each other, eat each other, blow each other up, hate each other, envy each other. If I were God, I would drink a keg of vodka and forget about everything, about this destroyed freedom of the angels, which they themselves led to. But I am not God. He is responsible and strives to save every soul, every child of his. 2238. What is prayer? It is the energy of life, humility, worship, which changes the smallest particles of matter into a completely different action, into different movements, different matter, spiritual power. And it can change the whole world. It is not the physical or scientific work that is most important in this world. The most important thing is awareness, kindness, radiating goodness, prayer, such from the heart pleasure. She changes the world. Politics will not change the world. Only a loving soul will change it. 2239. One must be open-minded, and then we will be reasonably objective. And to be objective means not to trust completely either science or religion and its corrupt theological interpretation. 2240. You don't have to do any good or any evil, because that's not what you're created for, to control it constantly. You don't have to do anything. Enjoy as much as you can. That is enough. 2241. Salvation is about making your consciousness happy. You don't have to do anything. Create happiness lightly around you, even when there are still difficulties. That's all. 2242. Is motivation necessary? And what is motivation? In the shortest terms, it is pushing the donkey, which does not want to go forward. 2243. The project of life in this gene world and the spiritual project in the heavenly world are similar. The rebel angels took their example from the condition of heaven. They remembered what it was like there. If you don't do something, if you don't apply your thoughts and feelings to something fairy tales life, then you will go crazy, even in heaven. That's why everyone does it, to never get bored. 2244. The only way to focus the mind on the spirit is to constantly remember God. Those who are not yet able to do so are being tossed about by the whirlwind of materialism and fictitious science, which offers conveniences. But they still end in obsolescence and destruction. It wasn't so long ago that we rediscovered Mendeleev's tables, the laws of biosubquantum physics and the multiplication table, which were already known millions of years ago. The collapse of science is a constant cycle of the end of all civilization. The sky stands open to us and we wallow in material sunlight. And the sun has been called a god. It is time to come out of the infancy of childish ancestral knowledge. 2245. When those who live illusions look in the mirror and see a face and not its reflection, so too the mind that rejects the truth succumbs to what is untrue. Where is the truth? In our sense, in our heart, which still knows what is good and beautiful. May it not be too late. The soul can relegate itself by means of freedom to the very bottom. And yet, everyone has a conscience and knows whether he is doing right or wrong. Padre Pio's words. 2246. Life as we know it is very complicated and shows us that it is actually very simple and transparent. But someone cared a lot about it, so that all the available energies in the cosmos slave us and allow us to make mistakes and sin against God's sensitivity. All this complication thinking algorithms, biochemical reactions of the physical cell, electrical discharges, are medieval banalities of space scientists. There is life as it is, but it is necessary to see at the same time the background in which this life was created. The background was not the will of God. Any sane angel sees this in a flash. Cosmic knowledge as we know and recognize, it is a fusion of hubris and ignorance. And where did ignorance come from? Well, probably not from God, who is love, omniscience and parent of all angels. And a parent rather wants to give his children everything that is best, most beautiful, most valuable and eternal. Physical life and its meaning is an interesting matter to think about and worthy of appropriate resolutions, stemming from the fact that it focuses primarily on killing plants and animals so that it can continue to function. Physical life should be a black march, a protest against cosmic scientists who do not respect the love and will of God, creating mechanisms of suffering in every cell of physical life. It is the intelligences that have turned away from God that have created physics, and in it, unmitigated suffering, terrorism and perfect wars to destroy and create new cravings of the ego. 2247. The hubris and utopia of materialist science have been dug deep into the infantile, in a schizophrenic atheism that arouses feelings against nobility and God, against spiritual progress. 2248. Don't treat spiritual life as something foreign. In fact, all material activities should be foreign to you. Your habituation to sensual and conceptual thinking has caused this illusion. It seems to you that material life is wonderful, despite the misfortunes you see around you. The sooner you move away from such a concept, the sooner you will see happiness from within. It is what is important, and not the one on the outside, which constantly tries to deceive you with its trinkets and make you believe that it is the only one that can satisfy you. You should stop with this view if you are looking for a higher life, other than the one based on earthly eyes, hearing, and touch. Try to get the touch, the eyes, the feelings of angels. Maybe this will convince you that the earth is a labor kolkhoz into which some people have thrown us. And we have been fooled. No one has to be born on earth. It's enough to find that knowledge that Jesus talked about. But the church has also forgotten it and has not been preaching it for a long time. Someday it will start. 2249. Without hesitation, we must consider all things as a magic spell of reality. If you can equally accept or reject the world, your mind is free from the shroud of darkness. If you are beyond human thought, beyond concreteness, beyond visualization, you will be fully united with God. God is the kernel of concreteness, the touch, your fulfillment of happiness. 2250. Of course, the cosmic world of phenomena, from its radiant beginning, has never existed forever. Being unique itself, it has useless templates. As such, it is a continuous, unique, created by certain spirits, a meditation. It has become a form of purgatory for rebellious souls who seek the fullness of existence.